Please listen carefully.
Welcome back to the Focus Target Podcast. It is episode 86 of Season 3. Your hosts, Smiley, with you once again with Van and Shy. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello.
Gentlemen. What's up,
Are
buddy?
you ready to talk about what you've been up to? What discs are in your drives? Haven't done one of these
I
in a
haven't done
little
a lot of
while
research.
on what you've been doing.
Discs? What are those?
Ancient technology. Everything's direct to download now.
Oh, I have my reflective glasses on.
Nerd.
We can see ourselves in your eyes.
Don't nerd shame me.
No, nerd is a compliment. Don't you know that?
Yeah.
That's true.
It's a mark of pride. All right, yeah. So we're going to talk today about kind of what we've been up to, games we've been playing, things we've been doing, that sort of thing. Just kind of a check in on the lives of Smiley, Van, and Shy, if that's something you're excited for. And before we get to that, of course, we like to do the question of the day here on the Focus Target Podcast. Today's question of the day, harkening back to our discussion of the Final Fantasy VII Remake last week. We talked in depth about how great of a job they did with that remake. It really kind of exceeded a lot of our expectations. And the expectations were already very high. So, if you could see another Final Fantasy in the Final Fantasy series receive a similar remake, I'd say let's I think Final Fantasy 11 is a little bit out of scope because that's kind of a different type of game. So, if you want to talk about Final Fantasy 11, be my guest. But I'm more interested in the actual, single player Final Fantasy series games. Which Final Fantasy in the series would you most like to see get a Final Fantasy 7 type of complete remake and remaster the way they did to 7? I'll start with Van today. Van, what's the number one on your list?
So I was gonna put Final Fantasy 11, but you ruined it. So I can't do that anymore. So I might as well just end the podcast here, I think.
All right, we're done. Rabbit.
You can find us at the Twitter.
You want to do the outro? Go ahead.
Nice.
I think so. I've only played 7 on through, and then only parts of 13 and 15. And then, so I guess 14 would be out of question too, for the same reasons that 11's out, obviously.
Yeah.
But I would say out of all the games that I have played, the second most memorable game to me would be Final Fantasy X. Just character-wise and everything. I liked 8, I liked 9, but for some reason 10, I don't know why, it's just a bigger part of my memory than those other games. I guess I was a little bit older too. But 10, just because all the characters, the graphics would be amazing. I know there were really cool places you used to visit, and all that fun stuff. So I think 10 would probably be really awesome.
10 would be fantastic because the two things that I think that 10 could really benefit from a remake like this, and 10 probably is one of the games that has a higher chance of actually having that happen because it is very popular both here in the States and in Japan. It's kind of one of their flagship ones along with 7. I'd say 7, 10, and 13 are probably the most mainstream of the Final Fantasy games, in my opinion.
You think 13 is more than 12?
Yes, absolutely, I do.
Huh. All right.
I just remember some beautiful areas in there, like the Calm Lands.
But one of the problems with 10 though is I felt like it was very linear in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the areas were cool, but they were just kind of like a straight windy path, and like think about how if they could take some of those areas and really flesh them out and expand them and give you some exploration, add some stuff like that, and of course Blitzball, giving us a deeper dive and just expanding it. I would love a Final Fantasy X remake. That's a fabulous choice. Shy, what about you?
Well, thank you for going for me next, because I'm going to tag off a Van here. First of all,
buddy.
my biggest concern is that 10 already had a remaster, so I'm worried that would be one thing against the chance of it.
Yeah.
When
it already did look pretty good.
I think
it's not like it
aged
terrible.
super well. I would say. I mean, it
was
was early PS2.
Was pretty decent.
I mean, the thing about remaster though is it sharpens edges, right? It doesn't really make the characters look better, and so I think sometimes remasters can actually almost enhance some of the blockiness or where things. So I don't know.
Wasn't the remaster for the PS3 and the Vita? Not even the Vita. No, yeah.
I think it did come out when but it's now made its way to all the platforms. You can get it on Switch, you can get it on PC, you can get it anywhere. Now, my tag on that, and I think this would actually make for a great partnership, because I think they could start with 10, have the engine built for the remake, and then they could just move right on into 10-2, and that would be mine. As a lifelong fan of Pain, as some of our, as my podcast hosts know, but also maybe other people, I don't know. But I think 10-2 is
the character Pain, not the masochist.
Well, sometimes I wonder. I don't know. With all the
maybe both.
All the I don't know.
I want to see Riku in high def. I want to see them do to Riku what they did to
Tifa.
To Red 13. So I think
Smiley, get hold of your podcaster.
The thing that I would like about that is, like, I feel like 10-2 is such an underrated game, and I think and not really, and definitely not a perfect game by any means. I think we can all agree 10 was really
good.
Nice. I think 10 was a really good game. I think most people can agree. It had its flaws, but it was a really good game. I think 10-2 had some really cool systems. I think one thing about 10-2, like the dress sphere system, as much like crap as that gets, and it being girly, cutesy, whatever, like it's a job system, which a lot of Final Fantasies have, but 10 kind of had something like that with the sphere grid and like being able to get abilities, but like 10-2, like you actually like change jobs on the fly, and there was like combat chaining, which I thought felt really clunky. I think they could clean the game up a lot. And I think if they did a 10 remaster following up with a 10-2 remaster, they could probably even clean up like some narrative stuff as well, and really kind of clean that all up. I think it'd be really cool. Also, I want to do one last disclaimer, because I think Van made a good point, like kind of saying what he'd played. Just for our viewers, I've only ever played anything 10 and up, and so like I'm sure there's some. I know like Smiley's talked about like 4 and 6 and some other games that sound amazing. I've just never touched them. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was tempted to pick either 4 or 6. Really not as much for my benefit as for yours, because I thought, you guys will probably never play either of those games, and that's a shame. Especially 6, I think, would be a cool remaster, although that game is very long as well, and so it'd be interesting to see how they did that. But 6 had some really memorable characters, and one of the things about 6 that was sad is that, like, not sad, but like there were you had a big party, and I think they just didn't have the space to really flesh everybody out, like dialogue wise and stuff. Like they did a good job with it, but I feel like a remaster you could really get a little bit more into each character, and I think that would be really fun. But my pick, I'm gonna go all the way back to the beginning. I think maybe if you guys have heard me say on the podcast that on our Minecraft server, I've spent innumerable hours of my life painstakingly recreating locations from the original Final Fantasy, because I thought it would be cool to see them in like made in 3 dimensions and be able to walk through some of these like cool iconic places like the Mirage Tower and the Earth Cave and even like the city of Canaria. I created like pixel for pixel in Minecraft, because it's, with an 8-bit game, it's a little bit easier to do that than some others. And so I think I would love to see them take the original Final Fantasy, the one that started it all, and like it's not like it had a very simple system. It was very Dungeons and Dragons based. Like you can see a lot of D&D mechanics that were present in that game that they then kind of went away from to kind of make their own thing as you got into the later games. But like there's just a lot of cool places. Like I would love to see them really take the core of that game and kind of turn it into something different. I think that's the one I would pick, is the original Final Fantasy. All right. Well, if you, our kind viewers, have an opinion, which Final Fantasy would you like to see remastered? Which would you like us to play? If you could pick one for us to remaster and check out, we'd love to hear from you. If you have feedback, we will share our contact information at the end of the show, and hopefully we'll hear from you about that. So, Disc in the Drive. It's time. Let's start today with Shy. And then Van and I can steal all the air from the room for the next 45
Try
minutes.
not to do the rest of the hour. Yeah.
Nice.
So let's give Shy a turn first before we go off on our combined one.
Do you think you guys have enough time to talk about the game you want to talk about? I mean, or do you think you'll be able to fill up, enough time? You don't think we'll run short?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
You might
Well,
have to stretch out dialogue a little bit.
so am I going through like everything I've been doing, or just hit on
No,
something and
just
then all right?
we'll,
I didn't
we'll,
know.
we'll cycle around.
It
We'll
sounded like
cycle
maybe
around.
I had like 5 minutes, and then like you guys were
No,
going for
no,
55. So I just wanted to check.
It's not
it's a
happening.
joke.
It's
It's a
Time's
joke.
literally going to be
All right.
like maybe 20
All right.
minutes tops.
All right. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
So,
we'll be all right.
So get a book to read or
well,
something.
that's 10 and 10.
All right.
That's 10 and 10.
Nice.
And then you're doing 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I had been playing through Persona 5 again, having gotten a PlayStation 5. Yeah. So there's there's a disclaimer here. I don't know. We had a conversation last week in Final Fantasy 7 about that. The concept of do JRPGs have a point in them where people maybe tend to quit? Like maybe you hit a burnout point, like where you're just kind of fatigued with the game. You're kind of like, when is it going to end? And I think I may have hit that again in Persona 5, and sadly enough, I think it's the exact same place I hit it the first time I played through. And I wonder if, like, I'd be curious. I kind of want to almost go on the Reddit and like ask a question and see like if I can get other opinions of like, did other players run into the same thing? Like, I wonder if a lot of these games have like points that like players hit kind of a wall. And for me, it's I don't want to get into spoilers, but it's, I don't know. I don't really want to get into spoilers. So like I could talk to you about Smiley later. You would know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, it's like I think both times I've gotten like 50 to 60 hours into the game and totally enjoying it. But then I hit kind of like just burn out, and it's just like all right, I kind of want some resolution, or I kind of like, I don't know. So yeah, so that has not really played a lot of Persona 5 the last couple weeks. I think unfortunately that is probably, who knows, maybe in a couple years it'll be like third time's the charm, start from scratch. But
Yeah, it's funny. Like I've definitely had that with a couple games, and sometimes it's worked out for me, and sometimes it hasn't. Like I think of like with Legend of Dragoon, I would always kind of get to the third disc and fizzle out, and then one time I decided like this time I'm gonna beat this game, like it's just gonna happen, and I pushed through it, and I went all the way through to the end, and I beat it without any trouble. But with Final Fantasy 12, I did the same thing. Like I would always get to like kind of when you'd first go to, I forget whatever the other big city that you were at war with at the beginning was, Arcadia
or
Arcadia,
like that?
whatever
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, the
I think
first
it
time
is
I go
Arcadia.
there, I would always get there, and then I would fizzle out for some reason. I think like I don't know what it was about that, but when I played the remaster, I pushed through that. I really wanted to like really get past it, and I did, and I went considerably farther. Like I got another probably 20 hours in, but then I still fizzled out later on, and I still never finished it. So, I don't know. I mean, like I can't tell you just push through a little bit and you'll definitely get through it, because sometimes you don't. You know.
So like it's super sad to admit this, because Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past is like one of my favorite games I've ever played in my life.
Yeah.
Ever. And I was talking to my brother, and he says that was one of his top like 5 games ever also, until he played Breath of the Wild. And he says that game genuinely took that spot away in his whole like life of playing video games.
Right.
And
Fair enough.
where the correlation is that I've played Breath of the Wild probably 90 hours or so, and that's three replays at 30 hours, and I just have not beaten it. I just don't. Yeah, I don't know why I keep fizzling out roughly within 5-6 hours of the same spot last time. And I tried it just most recently, like just a month ago, and I'm like, okay, I haven't played this game in like 2 years, right? And sure enough, I started it, and it's super fun in the beginning, and then for some reason I just fizzled out, and I don't get it. I don't know what it is, because by all technical measurements and reviews and everything, it's supposed to be one of the greatest games in the world ever, like ever, of all times, and yet doesn't keep my attention. It's just it's just bonkers to me.
And open world games are your jam. I mean, like you platinum Far Cry 4
RPG,
and like
dude,
Zelda ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing.
Some games I feel that way about Final Fantasy 9. I love Final Fantasy 9.
I like that.
I really do.
Yeah.
And like every time I play it, it really resonated with me when you said that, because it's like I start playing it again, and I'm like, why did I stop playing this? This is awesome. Like I love this game. It's so great. And then, but I can't get out of the third disc on that one. Like as soon as it opens up, like it's happened so many times, and I want to, but like I don't know. I don't have an explanation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Shai.
This time,
go ahead.
I genuinely think what killed it this time was getting the PlayStation 5, because I was in the middle of that tear. And then I got the PS5, and I was like, okay, let's push you aside a little bit, Mr. Switch.
One thing I've learned that has helped me finish some games is it's hard not to start over when you come back to it after a long time.
Yes.
Like, you wanna start fresh, but,
Especially
like,
me. That's what I do.
it is
Really,
what you
really,
do.
man.
You always
I
want to.
don't starting new
Yes,
characters and
Starting games.
MMOs.
That's my favorite thing. Yeah.
So true. But if you wanna actually finish it, like, there's been a number of times where I've come back to a game more recently, and my tendency is, like, I'm just gonna start over, and then I'm like, "No. I'm gonna pick up where I left off, and there's gonna be some struggle. There's gonna be a little period where I'm like, I need to figure out what to like. One time I even had to pick up I had to like go to Game Facts and figure out like, okay, let me find out what I've done and try to like figure out, because I could not figure out where to go. And I was like, but I'm gonna find out like what did I last do, and I'm gonna pick it up and just go from there, so I know what to do next. And it worked for me. Like, I was able to actually get through. I did that with Suikoden when I was playing through the Suikoden series, and like I was like, I really just want to finish this game because I'd never beaten it, and I'm not going to start over because it's too damn long of a game. Like, it just is.
I think
so. There you
That's
have it.
good.
and that seems like a really interesting idea, especially in like my case, where like the thing is, it's just like I'm getting tired of the game. Kind of. That's the thing. And so like I could see if you could stomach it, like it would feel, you'd come back at that point and it would feel fresh all of a sudden, and that would probably help you get over the hump. It just like you said, like maybe like in my case with Persona,
out back there.
yeah,
right?
I might need to watch like a story recap. I'm sure people have those on YouTube where like they put the cutscenes together and just like skip through it and remind myself what was going on. But yeah, there you go.
Another point to make is that, you know, like one of the reasons I don't like restarting a game that I've been playing for a long time is, like you said, it's a struggle. You're not comfortable with it. Nothing's fluid anymore. Your muscle memory is not there, and your digits and all that stuff, and it just feels clunky and bad and not enjoyable. But you're 30 hours into this game. You're probably going to get comfortable in way fewer hours than 30. You're going to get comfortable again in maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, maybe tops. Yeah. But then you just save yourself 22 hours. You're back to where you are and keep going. Yeah. Maybe I'll give it a shot next time.
Probably you won't. You like starting.
I'm gonna start over.
Know thyself. Well, I am sorry to hear that though, Shai, because I do think it's got a kind of a cool ending, and I hope one day you'll get to see it.
So wait, what is Persona 5? You said you're playing it, but you didn't give us much of.
Yeah, I guess you're not super familiar with the Persona games, are you, man? Like
No.
It's part of a, I don't know if what you would even call it, Smiley, maybe a universe called Shin Megami Tensei. Would you think a universe would make more sense? It's it's like a devil hunter, or like it very much like it deals with a mystical, occultic, spiritual like kind of themes. It's this whole like universe of games. So they've had like dozens of JRPGs like titles, and I actually got exposed to the series back when I was in college. Me and my roommate Rido, they had the game I was super excited you guys that was coming out, that I thought was a Switch exclusive. Now apparently it's coming out to all platforms, I guess, or something like that, all consoles. But Shin Megami Tensei 3, we played that back in the day, and then like just they have the Persona series, they have whatever, and they're just very traditional JRPGs, but with like monster collecting and combining mechanics, and just like the Persona series specifically are like high school students, and so you're like the game basically revolves around like dungeon crawling, but also like social life management as well, like working a part-time job, or like, you know, helping out, you know, friends and building allies in the real world. But then so I don't know, they're cool games.
It's funny that you say what the hell's Persona, because I've talked to you about Persona on multiple occasions. I think it's a game you would like. You love Pokemon, and there's kind of a Pokemon aspect. I think it's
awesome.
better. Like you
game.
like life simulator games, because I know you've played a lot of those, and like it's really an awesome combining of the two. Like I know I've talked about Persona 3 as one of the games I've logged the most hours on in probably like single player games, like, because I've played all the way through a 100-hour game multiple times.
Is it on PS5? Is it on Switch? It's on Switch.
5 is on PS5.
It's on both. I think it's on. Didn't the Switch version come out?
I don't think Persona 5 is on anything but PlayStation. I don't think.
Okay, maybe you're right.
But I think some of the older, like Persona 4 Golden, just came to Switch, Steam. Man, I could totally see that being a game that you could restart several times.
Nice, I love it.
All right, that's Persona 5. Let's hear about this mega dual host episode game that guys are.
Dude, I just gotta say, like, kudos to Coffee Stain. Like, they are just knocking it out of the park as far as like a game developer that really went under my radar for so long. And like the next games I want to play have all been like Coffee Stain by accident, not by intent. I'm sure there's some laws of just commonality there from people playing games or whatnot. But like, for example, we went from Deep Rock Galactic, which is Coffee Stain. When I fired up Valheim, I didn't even know it was Coffee Stain until I saw the splash screen in the beginning. And then I was just watching the next game that I want to play, Satisfactory. I was just watching videos on that, and sure enough, Coffee Stain splash screen right up in the front. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was a Coffee Stain game either. So just want to start with kudos to those people. They're killing it.
Are they the developer or the publisher?
I think they're the devs.
All right. That's a lot of games to push out in a short period of time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while Van's looking that up, yeah, we've been playing Valheim, which is kind of Minecrafty, Norse
DayZ-y.
mythology, DayZ-esque type survival game. You're basically a Viking who has died in the service of Odin, and so you have gone down to this like purgatory-ish place called Valheim, the 10th realm of the 9 realms. And you basically are now having to prove your worth to Odin so that you can rise again as a Valkyrie. And so you start basically naked and alone in the forest, as many of these games do. And you kind of got to punch trees, get wood, kind of that kind of stuff. And there's enemies that are there, and you gather resources, you make shelter, you get food, you hunt food, you eat, you make tools, you make weapons. It's very linear progression. There's actual bosses that you have to take down, and as you conquer each boss, it unlocks new craftables and unlockables and kind of new tiers. You kind of move through ages, where like when you first start, you're kind of a Stone Age technology. Once you beat the first boss, you kind of move into the Bronze Age, then into the Iron Age and the Silver Age, and now what are we going to be? Dark Metal Age, I think, in the going up after the 5th boss now.
Yeah.
Fan, but
Black Metal Age.
Black Metal, yeah.
Baby Metal Age.
That's what it is. I think that's a different kind of metal. But yeah, I mean it's good. It's one of those games too where it's very well paced. I think like a number of times right when I'm starting to kind of lose interest, we unlock the next tier of stuff and I get really powered up again, or you start being able to build something new. Like first you only can build with wood, and then you can build with stone and make a lot more stuff. And one of the cool things I think about is the building mechanics they take physics into account. So unlike in Minecraft where you can just build like ridiculous things, like
Floating
basically
if you want,
yeah,
shit.
everything that you build has to be supported. So if you just like put a unsupported piece of wood, it's just going to crumble. Like you have to you actually have to make architecture that makes sense, which is pretty fulfilling. It can be a pain, but it's also kind of fulfilling and makes you make stuff that actually looks pretty cool and not just like square box houses sometimes, like
with giant roof with no support but just ceiling. So Coffee Stain is the publisher, so nice. they're not the devs, but apparently they have a very keen eye for what's going to be a pretty dang good game, so kudos to them.
That makes more sense. That's kind of what I was thinking it would probably be, but
because
there'd be a lot of irons.
Especially 3 games back. I was wondering that too. I was like, how many teams do they have? If they're like, this was a pre-alpha, this one just released, this one crazy. So, but no, I mean,
go ahead.
Second to everything that Smiley's been talking about, it really feels like a mix between you have the building, like just straight up sandbox feel of Minecraft where you can create the world kind of how you want. There's a little bit of terraforming that requires a bit of effort. And then it has a splash of DayZ too, where there's survival in it, like big time survival. You could do PvP, a PvP realm, but we have our PvP turned off. So I can imagine I'm guaranteed there's got to be thousands of other realms out there that are like PvP only. So you log in, you got to build your fortress, get your weapons up, whatever you got to do, and you can just straight up PvP each other, take their items, keep your items, all that stuff. It'd be pretty interesting to see how that goes.
I think there's 10 is the max server size, but you might even be able to expand that with some of the mods.
Yeah, with some of the mods and whatnot. So but it just feels really well done, like Smiley was saying. The progression feels right. Just as you're about to lose interest with something, like something else will spark your interest, or you have a new idea that will just occupy your time for hours on end. Just like not unlike Minecraft, where you get an idea to build something pretty sizable, right? And then like to make you can either like grind through building XYZ, or you can make something that will assist you in building this. So then you got to gather materials to make this. And then by the time, you know, you're thinking of fleshing out this whole plan, you're still like 4 steps behind of even starting. And then you got to go out and start gathering materials or whatnot, or build these supplemental items. It's just a really fun game that I had no expectation that it was going to be like that. When somebody, you know, I read online that, oh yeah, it's a Viking survival game, and I'm like, okay, cool, sounds fun to me. Let's just get out there and
Yeah,
Raleigh beat some, you know, deer over with antlers or something.
it was funny because like I had heard about it and looked at it, but it was like just not quite sure. And then one day Van's like, "Hey, have you heard about this game?" I was like, "Yeah, I've heard of it. I was gonna try it." He's like, "We should try it." I was like, "All right, let's get it." And we
Yeah,
did.
I think Allie
We just kind of like
started it,
rolled
I
up.
think, or maybe it
Yeah,
was Z. One of them was like, but
we
we
were
had both
mentioning.
thought about it at the same time. Yeah. So then, so then we talked to Z, and Z wasn't that interested in the beginning, remember? And then
Yeah,
so Smiley and I are like, screw it. Well, oh, we actually started before him. So then we started. I'm like, okay, we know for a fact Z's gonna want this game. So then I just bought it for him to guilt him into playing with us. And now he's hosting one on a course of on a Siren server, and he's modded it and everything. It's out of control.
yeah, he's
Nice.
on like every single night before I log in and after I log out.
Yeah. But the other thing I like about the game is how difficult it is. Like, it does punish you for making stupid moves. And
Yeah,
like, you don't have unlimited inventory. They really encourage traversing the lands. So they have teleporters, which apparently was a hot button topic during development, because there's 2 co-developers, I guess, 2 main co-developers on the team. And one of them's like, hey, let's just use teleports to go everywhere. Like, I don't want to extend, like, gameplay shouldn't have to be just trying to physically get from one side to another or whatnot. And the other guy's like, no, that should be all it is. I mean, these are Vikings. Like, you're all about traversing terrain and waters and all that stuff. So they kind of landed on this compromise where most items you can bring through a teleporter. However, items that really are the core backbone to building anything in that game, weapon wise or, you know, structure wise or anything like that, is made out of elements like ores and whatnot. And ores you cannot take through teleporters. So in the event that you do have a good amount of ore or something like that you got to get back, you need to find your way back by traversing either step by step or hopping in a boat or something of that nature to get all of your items back to your house. And it really does feel fulfilling. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is just dragging on so long, I'm really bored. And it's not short enough to where it didn't feel like you accomplished anything. They just strike a really good balance in this game, from effort to reward and feeling.
So,
another way.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Can
Yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know if I can ask questions. I mean, I know that you guys are
You're
No
not allowed to ask
questions.
questions.
chatting,
Ever.
but it sounds
Do
like it
not question how
basically
good this game is.
sounds like it turns basically round trip traversal into like one way traversal. So like, let's say like you're out exploring, you find like, let's say like a quarry, what you could use as a quarry, you could drop I don't know, maybe, I don't know how this works, but I guess you could drop the teleporter, mine, walk back to camp, but then you could like just teleport directly to that quarry whenever you want, mine,
We've done
walk
that a
back to
bunch,
camp,
yeah.
instead of like having to round trip travel every way, which that does seem like a good compromise.
Yeah, so you're already a master Valheim traverser.
There you go.
One of the other things I think the balance is good is, you know, one of the problems a lot of people have with Minecraft is you do need to be so self-directed. Like, there's not, I mean, you can go, there's certain things you can achieve, right? But like,
Right.
basically Minecraft, like, you need a project, you need to figure out something to build, something to do. And Valheim, you still have that capacity if you want to, if you're feeling creative, or if you have ideas like Van was talking about. You have that freedom to do a lot of building and creating, but like, there's actually a purpose. Like, you have a
Yeah.
boss that you're going after, that you're gearing up for. That, you know, there's the areas, as Van said, are very, especially as you go on, are more and more dangerous. And you know, there's a bunch of places that when we first got to them, we could not go by ourselves safely without having severe risk of death. Like, it took 3 or 4 of us together to be able to safely go into like the swamps and the dungeons and stuff. So I think that adds a little something that I think is that people will like, where they don't have to feel so like, well, what do I do? Like, what if I don't have an idea for something to build? Like, you always have a goal. I shouldn't say always. You know, the game's still in early access, so.
Yeah, but there is that constant goal there to
Yeah.
work for, right? So you're like, okay, cool. Finish my house. I really like the way it looks. The layout's great. I've organized all 47 of my boxes, which took me 27 hours. Like, now what do I do? Like, well, continue, progress. unlock, kill the next boss, upgrade your armor so that you can kill the next boss, or whatever you need to do. You also have skill points too. I don't know exactly how they help or not on some of them,
I
but
believe
as you
I believe
continue to do
most of the.
something,
Go ahead.
yeah, as you continue to do something, you just get points, right? So like chopping a tree, like using an axe, and then you'll still get a little bit of axe every single time you swing, and then it does level up numerically too. So like you can have running skill 60, or in Smiley's case, 60 one day and 25 the next, because you die, you lose XP. But sorry, what
Yes.
were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I believe most of the skills allow you to do things more efficiently. So like I think, for example, the higher your running skill, the slower your stamina drains when you're running.
Hmm.
Same thing when chopping, or like it may also help with damage on your chop. Every time, because when you chop, it actually deals damage to the tree until it's
Yeah,
enough to fell it. And so I think it they're small, but it is satisfying to be able
yeah,
to skill up. If you're the type of person who likes to skill up your axe skill and your sword skill and your running skill and your jumping skill and your swimming skill, like
yeah.
it's nice. It's always nice to be rewarded for just doing what you're for playing the game.
I think another cool
So,
thing we've been able to do in this game is because we play it multiplayer almost exclusively,
yep.
like we've taken roles within the party. And that's pretty cool too. So like
Yeah.
Minecraft, like everybody has a sword, everybody has a shield. But in this, like I am a range DPS. I have a polearm that's not really a polearm, they call it an atger. I guess I've never heard the term before, but apparently it's a weapon that Vikings used to use. Kind of looks like a polearm, has a nice giant blade at the end of a stick. But it's a two-handed weapon, and then I have my bow as well. So I'm like range, mid range. Allie's similar, but she has a pole arm and a shield. So pole arm is considered one hand, so she can get a little bit closer and range. Smiley has range, but then he's also off tank. And then we have Z, who's like full blown tank. Like when we get the heaviest metals, at least Allie and I donate all of the medals we can. It's not because Smiley doesn't want to, but Smiley's kind of in his own faction, so that's the only reason why he wouldn't have been in part of this discussion. But we'll like donate our ore to Z to say, here, man, you need to tank up because you're going to be the frontline fighter on this thing. And it's just pretty cool having that party dynamic that we organically created in the game by choosing different weapons that all serve a different function.
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense that way, right? Because you three kind of teamed up, and I kind of went went my own way and kind of, you guys decided to pool your resources and do everything together. I wanted to have a little bit more control over my own stuff, and so what it's led to, like you said, is you can kind of pool your resources differently, so that the things that take like the more tanky items and like the shield and the armor, you're kind of funneling to Z, while you guys are using the stuff that's for arrows and ranged weaponry and stuff like that. Whereas I'm a little bit more well-rounded because
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
everything, but like I don't have the same number of resources because you guys are getting three times as much. So like I
right.
don't my armor is not as good as Z's because I don't have enough armor to make. I
Yeah,
don't have enough metal to make it. So it does kind of work out, and it works out with because we still work together for a lot of stuff that we still need four people for, just for safety's sake. So it does. I think I still do compliment you guys each being a little bit more specialized. Having a
yeah.
kind of a secondary, well-rounded character there kind of fits in with your group dynamic. So
You're like a
Yep.
fighter in D&D.
I am a little bit like a fighter in D&D. Yeah, I'm an off tank. I'm like a warrior in Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah,
Off tank,
exactly. I
off
think
tank action.
it's yep.
And that's what we did. Like when we fought one of the bosses that took a long time, like we were kind of on ad duty, and then when Z was getting low, I would step in and take it for a while so he could recover, and then he would sub back in. So
That's another thing that they've done well with boss fights is like it's not just memorizing pattern. Like it's very erratic. The whatever decision formula is behind their movements is really well done because it seems organic. It doesn't seem coded, and
yeah,
like I said, you can't memorize the pattern or whatnot. You can get into danger, but you can also work hard and think quick on your feet to get out of danger. And
they
one of
definitely
the fights we did
telegraph
was
their
what, like,
moves.
yeah, 35 minutes or 40
Yeah,
minutes. That
yeah, we
that boss
grinded
battle
that
was
guy out.
crazy long.
Yeah, that was a tough one. That third boss, Bone Mass.
Yeah, bone mass. Bone
But yeah,
mass,
it is.
buddy.
It's a good system. It's a good level of challenge without feeling like the Final Fantasy 14 type of, like, you're not expected to just like die figuring it out. Like you're expected, like it feels more like the kind of battle that I would want to fight, where it's like, it's more about efficiency. Like you can actually survive fairly well as long as you meet a minimum threshold but like how many resources you use and how long it takes and things like that are going to be based on how well you play and how well prepared you are. Which I prefer that sort of boss interaction rather than, you know, all or nothing.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
mechanic memorization or
die
something.
until you figure it out.
And if they're gonna punish you that much for dying, like they have to design it that way. Like the thing about
Yeah.
14 is you're not really punished for dying, like especially nowadays,
Right.
right? Like you can just you're meant to repeat it, like you guys said, to
Right.
memorize it.
Yes.
But like in a game like
Build it.
Valheim, if like you're losing tons of exp, like that would be disastrous. Like you're level
Yeah.
30, now you're level 1 because you tried the boss 5 times. Like so
That still does happen.
I think they kind of
when
go
you're
hand
like
in
me.
hand.
You don't build it easily.
So
I've had some bad luck.
if I can ask
Some luck.
if I can ask another question, Van
Yeah,
mentioned
go.
how
Bring it.
dangerous the world is, and I'm guessing it's more than just the world boss, or like not world boss, but bosses and like even survival elements. Like I'm guessing there's just general combat in the game, and like what do you fight? Are they like wild creatures? Is it like other Vikings that have been sent to this place, or they're like monsters, or they're like kind of
There's
like even
monsters.
like
There's-
mythological
When-
beings, like Norse
When you
mythological
start,
beings? Or...
there's like greylings, which are little like forest dwelling
Tree
creatures
folk
that are
things, yeah.
like there's a couple that can be dangerous. They're more of an annoyance than anything. Then when you get to the third area, which is the swamplands, there's a lot of nasty stuff there. There's
Jaguars and skeleton archers
skeletons and leeches
yeah,
that poison you,
leeches,
slimes that
blobs.
poison
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, just really
Um,
nasty stuff there.
you.
And then so you gotta come prepared. You gotta bring anti-poison potions that you have to brew yourself in a cauldron and then ferment afterward. Like it's pretty cool. All these setups just to accomplish something. You really need to put some foresight into what you're trying to accomplish and bring the appropriate equipment and gear and potions.
Yep. The fourth area's got wolves that hit like really hard for when you first get up there. I died a lot to the wolves. Werewolves, golems,
Drakes.
and now we're getting into the fifth area, which is the plains, which have death wasps
Oh man,
and
Goblins,
goblins, and those
Shamans.
giant yaks.
Yeah, all kinds.
So yeah,
oh
there's
yeah,
a lot
those
of
giant
stuff out there,
yaks.
and they hit like especially like if you stay in safe areas, it's not too bad. It's not quite as dangerous as it's more like Minecraft is kind of dangerous wherever you are because if a creeper sneaks up on you, you could go boom at any time.
yeah.
Right, so you always have to be watching your
Yeah.
back.
That's
In
a good point.
Valheim, it's a little bit more like if you're out in the meadows, like there's things that could cause you trouble if you're unprepared, but for the most part, you can feel fairly secure. Although they do have like home invasions, where like every so often, like you'll get attacked by like waves of enemies, and you have to fight them off. Like they'll attack your fortifications.
That's cool.
Oh, there's trolls. We didn't talk about trolls.
Oh yeah, there's trolls.
Trolls
in
are
the,
dangerous early on.
Is there a
yeah, the
reward
Black
for
Forest.
home invasions? Like, is there like, or just like a
Yeah,
rolled
you
event?
don't die and they don't destroy your home.
Oh, nice.
If you don't like
Yeah.
one time I was working on the roof of this house that I was building, and I had made it really sturdy. I had 3 separate layers of wood wall to protect it, like wood wall and spikes and more wood wall. And then I didn't realize I was getting attacked by these trolls because I was kind of like up on this scaffolding. And these trolls show up, and they've got a tree, like he's holding a tree. They're like giants. And he just starts whacking the side of my wall, and like the whole thing just breaks down and caves in. I'm like, dude, like I'm just trying to work on my roof. Like, what is going on? Like, so there's definitely it does kind of suck. Like, there's not really any like safe place. Like, if I need to step away, like the other night, like my dog needed to go out, like I have to log out. Like I can't, even if I'm like in a
Yeah,
in
you're
a
not
home,
AFK. You're
like
not gonna
you don't
AFK.
just leave your character logged in because like if you get an invasion, like they
You're
will
dead.
come and break through your walls and destroy you, and that's kind of annoying. But like it's a cool mechanic, but it's also annoying when you're more in like a building mode, and you're like I don't want to fight off waves of skeletons. Like I'm just trying to build this freaking house. Like come on, but
Maybe you should play Valheim creative mode.
right, yeah, fair enough.
I think the last point I want to make on what an amazing game this is the price point. The game is $19.99,
Yeah,
and
Some value.
and like if you talk about dollars to joy ratio, like it is just off the charts as far as what you pay for how entertaining it's been. You know?
yeah, it's been pretty impressive, I will say. And like I think it looks pretty good. Like they talked about when I first was reading about it, they're like, well, we decided to go with a certain direction with the graphics, and I thought that meant it was going to be pretty bad. But like, I think it's a beautiful game. It's cool to explore these areas, and like it feels very environmental. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but like a swamp feels like a swamp. Like it feels like a swamp should. Like going up on the mountain is pretty cool. Like I don't know. I think they did a good job with it. I think it looks good. We'll see. My standards are much lower for graphical fidelity than most. So
yeah.
Shy
hate it. Like textures
I need to get the game just to weigh in on this now. Apparently, to give a graphical assessment of.
I feel like you need to go watch a couple videos just so you can tell us what you think.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool. I enjoy I think the water what do you call it? The water behavior is as good as I've seen. Like it actually has tides that go up and down. Nice. Like in a storm, like the water like comes all the way up. Like Van and Z, the first house they made it out on these rocks, and they had to move because when it would storm, the water would be like in their house, coming through
our house, and destroying our wood and everything. Like
it was awesome.
So we had to pick up our whole house and move inland, like another 50 yalms or something, or meters, if you will.
What's a yalm?
Yeah,
that's what they had the nerve to say to me. What's a yalm? Like they never played Final Fantasy 11.
Who had in this game? Someone had the nerve to ask you that? Or?
Z and Van. Like,
wow.
That wasn't me. It was Z. I would not have ever asked you that.
Wow. I mean, it's a good question.
We know that's like our just gaming term for distance.
I would say, because even though we played 11, do we any of us really know what a yalm is? Like, we know it's a unit of distance, but do we know how big? You know, I mean, it's a good question.
It's like yay high, yay late.
It's not like this.
Nice.
That's what a yalm is.
This is an ilm. That's a yalm. Whatever. Right. I don't know.
So Van, I hear when you say minute per joy ratio, what I hear is if you were ranking games, you've got like Pill and Block, and then you got Valheim like coming up right behind.
Pill and Block is just exponentially. I mean, we didn't pay anything.
It was
right?
free.
We were gifted.
It was
right.
So it's hard to even measure them, but it sounds like it's like it. I mean, maybe it's a distant second, but I mean,
yeah.
In that,
I hear, and inside scoop, you're hearing it first here. Focus Target exclusive. I hear that the developers of Pill and Block are working on their own engine and possibly coming out with Pill and Block 2.
Oh man.
Quiver with anticipation.
We'll need to ask this said developer to be a guest on the podcast at some point.
I think so.
Yeah.
Fair enough. The last thing I want to say is what I thought was encouraging about this is that this is the first time I've played. It's been a long time since I've played a game like this that like we've really been trying to progress, like do something as a group and progress. It really reminded me of the MMO days, and it's cool. I was mentioning this to Van the other night that. It's cool that it makes me feel like if a cool MMO did come out, like if Pantheon ended up being something or whatever the next one is, that like it would be possible for me to still play an MMO and be able to make progress with it. Like, because we've been giving it like 2 to 3 hours a night fairly consistently. I'd say like 4 or 5 nights a week. And we're making progress. Like we're down to where we've beaten 4 of the 5 bosses that are available in early access. Like, we are progressing every night, and I feel like if this was an MMO, like, you know, for a while I wondered if I'd ever be able to play a game like Final Fantasy 11 again, because it's like, will I really have the time to ever make progress? But like, I think this proves that I could, if I really wanted to get on a game 2 or 3 hours a night, like things can be done. So I thought I liked that. That was encouraging to me for my gaming future. I just gotta get Shy over on the Pacific time zone.
God. Yep.
All right, that's Valheim.
Nice.
Back to Shy.
That's all of Valheim.
What are you actually playing?
What am I actually
Since you're not playing Persona?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've probably got one more round, right? I'm guessing.
I've got at least 2 things to talk about, if not 3. So we got
simultaneous. A couple rounds. Couple quick rounds. All right, cool. Then I think I teased this last time as well, but I've been playing some 14 again. Final Fantasy 14, a game that just got dissed in the last conversation of the last game. So I know there's some haters in the room as when it comes to 14.
They dissed it. I just said I didn't like the.
I know.
Maybe that is a diss. I don't know.
But it's been cool. It's I've reconnected with an old friend of ours, Gelfratis, who we all played 14 with. I believe. I think Van may have quit bore we started playing with Gelfratis, but Van knows Gelfratis. His brother Lemon Cloak.
I know Gelfratis.
Yeah.
He was in the guild with us early on, but he didn't actually do anything with us. Like he joined
Yeah,
us
yeah.
and
It
he
was
just
playing
like
with
did
his
his own
brother.
thing, but
Yeah,
with,
like he
like
and his
we'd see
brother.
him
Yeah,
on. But yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And actually, Van met Gelfratis at when we all hung
That's
out in
right.
Colorado. Yeah, so
Indeed, he did.
we all hung out at that arcade that one night where we played
Yeah, he came to
Korean
bowling that
Korean
night. He
dance
bowled with
games
us.
that
and
was
bowling
cool.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been cool. It's been cool to be back. So the flip side of what you were just saying, Smiley.
Jenkins still playing?
He apparently took a break. Lex seems like he's really into it, and I wouldn't be surprised now that Gelf and I are back in if Tenkin might come back and like
I bet he will.
I don't know, like playing again makes me want to like dig a little bit into raiding again. I never really, I don't mind the boss fights that much. There's something I just like playing the game, and so I guess I don't mind repeating, especially if you're playing with friends, because I feel like I think what was always frustrating, and I think this you could agree with me on this, Smiley, is when there's not a lot you can do in the game like hard that 4-person. Like most of the hard content is 8-person, and so like we never really had a solid group of 8 people except at the very beginning. And so like especially like the later raids we were doing and stuff like that, we were always having to pull in like 2 or 3 pickups, and I don't think any of us ever claimed to be like the best gamers out there, but I think we all have come to rely on each other and like kind of know each other's strengths and weaknesses and like competencies. But we'd have to recruit people who I think would sometimes be frustratingly bad at times, or like but they were nice people or whatever, and they'd stick with the group, so we'd kind of like try to make it work, and oftentimes it didn't. And so I think that led to some frustration in the past as well. But I don't know why I really went down that path, but
It's an interesting topic.
Where am I going?
Like I'm already thinking. I'm like, I wonder what the average gamer thinks his or her skill actually is. Does everybody think they're above average? And then how many people are wrong? And yeah,
I mean, I could say
So
in 14, I don't feel.
to be had.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm above average in 14 at all. And I think the nice thing about 14 is there's a lot of parsing, and so you can kind of really tell where you are. Like I feel like for me, if I'm like on average, if a little bit like above when it comes to parsing, like I'm happy. But like there's some crazy, people out there.
I used to be above average in FPS. I have no problem saying that. I don't know if I am anymore. I'm watching these fancy kids with a newfangled Apex Legends and all these other games, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do that anymore.
Well, it probably depends on the FPS, right? Like a Battlefield that's maybe a little more strategic and slow paced.
We'll see.
I imagine.
Battlefield 6.
All right.
Yep.
Well, all right.
More
I'm willing to bet
we'll
that
find out.
you would have more. You know what I mean? Like it's the Twitch stuff that like 12-year-olds are like.
Yeah.
We just don't stand a chance. The reaction speed's just not there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Sorry, this has gone way off field. I will say this.
It's a good podcast, though.
Smiley, I've been playing War again in 14. They did some. I don't know if you remember. I started out as War. Was my first job in 14.
Yeah,
and
then you said it was really boring and you quit.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
That's what you used to
What's
say.
that? What I said? Like,
Yeah, you said tanking was incredibly boring in Final Fantasy.
I guess
And-
so.
And maybe it was back then. I don't know if they've changed it, but that was always
no,
your
it's
complaint.
worse. Like, I would say
It's
to a certain extent. Like, I really said that. Like, it's weird because they've made holding enmity super easy nowadays. So, like, back in the day, you used to have to struggle to like kind of hold hate against good
Especially on
DPS.
War.
But like now, it's just like you click a button and you have hate basically. But I guess you have more DPS stuff. I thought the reason I didn't play War when you were playing War was I think hadn't like the Falclee rotation come out and all that stuff, and like it just felt maybe not. Who knows? It became very like instead of just like it became like a strict rotation of moves, and I was just like I don't have time for this. It seems like a pain. But now it's more like just kind of like it's got kind of a priority system where you kind of like make sure these buffs are up or debuffs are up, and then like kind of fill stuff in, and they look cool, and it just feels kind of like coming full circle. So it's been cool. It's been cool to be back, and I think the other thing about 14 is I don't feel like I need to like play a ton of time. I can log in for like an hour a day or like a couple hours. If Golf's on, I can do some stuff with him and like just be pretty casual about it. So
Cool. Well, I'm going to go next. I'm going to talk about a game that I've been playing for quite some time now. Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. I think you've probably heard me talk about Defu on here for a long time. And I'm sad to say that I think my time with Defu has finally come to an end.
Wow.
Yeah, I've actually invested quite a bit of money in it. It's funny how games that like, the more like a game that has such a cutthroat where you need to pay to progress, I have such little interest in. But a game like Defu where it's so generous, I mean, I want to support them, and like I definitely spent money on that game that I didn't need to, because like I'm quitting with like 300,000 gems in currency, which is Like, I mean, I've been pulling nonstop. Like, I've gotten everything I've wanted for the last like year and a half. Like, I feel like I can't run out of currency in that game. It's fantastic, but what's killed it for me, and it's the same thing that killed Final Fantasy Record Keeper for me, and it's very similar, funny enough, and that's why I wanted to go next to what killed what one of the things I really didn't like about Final Fantasy 14 is it's that same type of like just keep having to pound your head against a wall to do things, like just keep failing until you succeed. And the boss fights, like the top tier fights, which I am capable of doing and clearing, it's not a problem of not being able to do it. It's that they take forever. It's like these fights take 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes to complete. And if at any point in there you mess up, you make a wrong choice, you let a buff wear off, you forget to reapply a buff, you don't pay attention to the turn order and something gets out of whack, you fail. And if you fail, you start all over. And it's like, I don't have time in my life to be playing, like doing these fights. And like, there's like at least one or two of these fights a week that you have to clear. And it's like, I just don't, it's not fun anymore. Right. It's just frustrating. And it's sad because like I said, I can beat it. I know I can clear it. I know I have the tools to do it, but like, I just don't want to. And it makes me sad because I've invested a lot of it. I'm happy with my account. I'd love to keep growing it. There's a lot of characters coming out in the next couple months that I really like and want, but like it's the same thing with Final Fantasy 14. Like that's why I eventually quit that game, was that if I'm not interested in playing at the highest level, like what am I really doing? I'm just kind of wasting time. And, I thought for a while maybe I could just kind of play casually and just kind of still collect some of the characters so I'd have them and not really do the hardest fights. And I tried that for a couple weeks and it just seems kind of like a waste of time. So I'm basically down to one game on my phone now, which I have not been that low on my phone games since I first started playing phone games, which was with Record Keeper like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's kind of a weird feeling. Like a lot of times I pick up my phone and I'm like, I don't really know what to do with this. So like, I guess nothing. I guess I'll put it back down. It's a strange feeling. So no more Defu for me, which is sad. But hats off to Defu. Like again, it's a great game. And I wish more games would be as generous with the, like, I think it's gacha done right. Like, there's still a gacha mechanic, but it's not like any other one I've really played from a cutthroat perspective.
So, how long have you been playing Smiley the Defu?
Well, I think the game came out about 3 years ago. It was because we just had the 3rd-year anniversary in March. So I started when it first came out. I really didn't like it, honestly, and I played a little bit, but I really didn't get into it. And then I came back maybe 6 months in, and they'd made a lot of changes, and I liked a lot more the direction it was going in. And so it's probably been about 2.5 years worth of play, which, as far as phone games go, it's probably the second longest. Only Record Keeper, I think, was longer. I only played like 1.5 years at Shop Titans. So yeah.
Shop Titans. I played just under a year, I think, because I subscribed like 2 weeks after playing. And then right before I was about to quit, I was going to get my year prize or whatever it was. So.
Gotcha.
Sheenie's still mad at all of us, of course. Especially
sure
you now, too. You and Sarah now. Yeah.
Oh, I know. She is.
She doesn't want to talk to you guys anymore.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Should probably write her a card.
I should send her a card. Sorry.
I'll give you our address after the show.
I feel bad about it, but I really feel good about it because I am happy not having to play that game anymore. I'll send her a letter. I'll just send her a letter and say, well, the only reason Sarah and I quit was because Van quit. The game's look at home before you look abroad.
You guys can probably just direct all the blame in the end to me, and then just blame the guy on the East Coast. So
See, that's Van's out. Then when she goes back to Van,
they
say, well really, it was Shy who left. And so just pass the buck around.
I think last night I woke up at like 2 a.m. or something like that. I can't remember what reason. And then I guess I woke up Sheenie when I woke up. And then she just grabs her phone and she like throws it at me. And she goes, here, it's King's Caprice. Go build something real quick before you go back to sleep. So then I had to like collect her items and then like set up new things.
That's funny.
I feel like that'd be a great way to play that game, like honestly, and not get burned out. Is actually have like a shared account, like just like, and you get a lot done because you could really just kind of like not burn out, just like someone's cooking, the other person's doing stuff, and like
Sarah and I should have talked about that.
Yeah,
smart way to go.
Just downsize to
that's
one
a way to
account.
approach a future mobile game. All right, I know we're running out of time and everybody still has a lot to talk about. The game that I have been playing in addition to Valheim, when I'm not sitting in front of my PC, I'm sitting in front of my PlayStation 5. And it's a game that's been on my radar for a while. I just never picked it up for whatever reason. It is Detroit Become Human. And that game
Detroit,
came out,
like
I think,
city.
2.5 years ago. Yeah, Detroit like the city. Yeah, so it's about Detroit.
Versus what other kind of Detroit?
Yeah.
Well, I just thought Detroit Become Human. Like, it's just kind of weird.
It doesn't. Yeah, you're right.
So what does it mean? Like, that's what I'm. I just want to make sure. It's not like. Am I hearing that right? It is.
He's looking at the show notes. So hold on. Let me put a question mark or a comment in here. There.
Nice.
Detroit
There you go. It's
Become Human is what it's called.
Oh, so Detroit's not becoming human. It's becoming human in Detroit potentially.
Something like that.
Okay.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, so
that makes a little more
it's
sense.
a video game about androids. And so there's these 3 androids, and they are I guess the narrative is to become human, right? What does it mean to become human? And the gameplay style, the best I can relate it to is it's a lot like Until Dawn. And for those of you who haven't played Until Dawn, it's very cinematic. You can control the player in a third person view, and then you run into these instances where you'll have to make a decision on whether you go through path A, B, or C, or you perform action A, B, or C, or you respond with angry, compromise, or whatever else, negotiate or something like that. So commonly referred to as butterfly effect, right? Whatever decision you make, ultimately by the end of the scene, you can have a virtually way different outcome than you did if you selected a different path on how you went on with your decision. So you're playing these 3 different androids that are in really 3 different places in their lives as far as what their roles are as androids, but ultimately all of their paths are intertwining, so you get to see the story from all 3 different perspectives of kind of seeing the other 2 androids and what decisions they're making, how that affects your decisions when you're playing each of the androids. It's a pretty cool concept. I haven't beat the game yet. I'm probably only maybe like 4 or 5 hours in, but so far it's been really enjoyable. The graphics are great. The acting's actually really good, spot on. So it was free it was part of the PS Plus collection. So I was like, let me just download this for free. It's been on my radar for a while. I want to test it out. But the part that is most surprising to me is not just how enjoyable the game has been, and I don't mean like, oh, it's surprising because it's so enjoyable, but the part that surprised me that I didn't think I was even going to get out of this is just deep human questions about morality, because the decisions you have to make as an android, as a non-bio creature, like non-human creature, like it's kind of weird to separate the fact that you are a human player playing an android making decisions as if possibly they are human, because some of the decisions are not easy decisions. It could be to take a life or not, and so you're a robot, right? And you may be being mistreated or whatnot, and you have to make a decision. Do you retaliate on this individual, on this actual human who is going to get hurt by a machine or not, or otherwise? And you get put into these really uncomfortable situations all the time, and I found it pretty fascinating how morally questionable your actions become in this game by playing as robots having effects on human life and people. And it's pretty incredible job. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm only 5 hours into it, and I hope to have a further discussion next time we have more time to talk about it. Hopefully I'll have the game finished by then, because from what I understand, it's only like a 10-12 hour game anyway, so it's a very short game, much like Until Dawn.
Nice.
One cool thing, actually, the last thing I do want to mention is that after you finish a scene, you can actually see the fish bones of how the scene could have played out. Now, there's no context in the ones that you didn't choose, so you don't know what could have happened. But there's like empty boxes there saying, "Hey, if you went on this path, you could have done blah blah blah."
Help you with replay.
Yeah, exactly.
To say, here's where you could have made
a different decision and went on this. But again,
Right.
You don't get to see what the content is. You just get to see that there were actions in that location. And this is a very cool feature. They put an average response per action.
Yeah,
so what percent
like
of the people chose what action you did.
Cool.
And what fascinates me is some of these things are like 33, 33, 33, and I'm like, wow, isn't that just human nature? And then other ones are like 99, 1%. You're like, that's crazy. I felt like I made this decision against like, my normal actions there like that.
Yeah.
But in reality, I'm in line with 99% of the population. It's pretty amazing.
That's a cool feature. They had that with Wolf Among Us,
Nice.
which is an awesome game that I always recommend to people. You could probably find it for like $5 now on Steam or something. That game was dope. And it's kind of similar idea, but like it always had that kind of thing too, which like where it said like, X% of people chose this way or that way, and you're always like, oh, how's that possible?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the 1%. It like sits down, puts the controller down, goes and turns themselves into like a psychological ward. And they're like, I truly am.
I really do need to become human. So yeah, Detroit Become Human. Check it out.
Nice.
Not as cool as I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna be about like a city coming to life and like the anthropomorphization of a city. Like how is a city like a person? The heartbeat of the city. But no, all right.
Sounds
whatever,
nightmarish.
fine.
Sounds nightmarish.
Well, there's the game that you need to develop now.
Yeah, well, I already got a couple of those in the work.
Reach out to Coffee Stain.
Yeah, Coffee Stain. Hook me up. Okay, so let's talk about. Well, Shai, you want to go next? I think it's your turn.
Yeah, we do maybe a lightning round. I think we are within the last few minutes of the. Not that we can't.
Sure.
Time is not that the clock is holding us to any kind of within a box or something. So interestingly enough, your conversation about Defu, I have a counter example to that. That's exactly opposite.
Okay.
And so a game that I've quit multiple times, War of the Visions. I've been playing it on PC recently. I installed it on BlueStacks. And surprisingly enough, that's actually been great for me. And I think I've talked to you specifically, Smiley, about just how like every time I've tried to play that game, I really enjoy it, but then it kind of becomes like kind of obsessive almost. Like I have it on my phone and like it's very grindy and like there's just you can always have something running on the game. And so then like I'll have it like running off to the side at work, or like I'm trying to like when I take a bathroom break, I'm trying to launch it up and like do stuff in the game, and it becomes like occupies my mind. And so I used to think, kind of like what you're saying, Smile, like with Defu, you're like, if I can't play it at the highest level, why am I playing it at all? And that's what I thought about War of the Visions as well. Like, if I don't have it on my phone, if I had it on BlueStacks or whatever, like, why would I keep playing it? Like, I can't like be grinding all the time or keeping up with the meta. And oddly enough, putting it on the computer actually has worked out perfectly. Like I can't play it all the time, and I honestly don't care. Like, and maybe it's because I put a lot of time in before and like I actually have a pretty good account, but like I just joined like a super casual guild that I don't talk to. I'm not in Discord with them, and like I log in, I do my dailies, like an event comes out, I can do some of the event missions just as I have time, and like it's really worked out well. And I think actually I remember talking to you in the past about like streaming it. I think I'm probably going to start doing some streaming of it finally, and just like some of the fights and stuff like that, and just like because I can just play it here and there, and I think it might be a little more fun actually, because it is like in smaller doses, and it's not as punishing as Defu, because I did play Defu and I quit much longer before you did. But like I think at the starting point of where some of those fights, I think Abyss maybe had just come out, or some of those like tower modes, and like where fights, like you said, could take at that time maybe 10-15 minutes, but if you failed, you had to restart, and like maybe you'd spend 2 or 3 hours sometimes trying to like down this fight, and it's like, this is a mobile game. Like this is very frustrating. So there's my quick War of the Visions. Look forward to some streams. There you go.
Well, I'll jump. I wasn't even going to talk about it this time. I was going to skip it to be able to give it more airspace. But I'll touch on Legends of Eidolon a little bit. It's a game that's on Steam. It's also on the phone, on Android. I don't know if it's on iPhone. I think it is, but I don't know about iPhone anymore. And it's really cool. It's very. If you ever played RuneScape, I think it's kind of inspired by that. It's definitely a game. It's a game where you skill up a lot of things. There's fighting, there's fishing, there's mining, there's crafting, there's all kinds of stuff. It's kind of set up in an MMO style. It's Legends of Eidolon, the online MMO, or the Idle MMO, I think is how it's billed. And it's made by a developer who's just one guy. His name's Lava Flame 2. And I actually played. I think I've talked on this podcast before about idle skilling, which is a mobile game that I played of his. That was just kind of a fun kind of time, a little bit of a time waster game, but it was really well done. I liked how he connected with the community. I liked his model for making games and working on games and releasing content. Like he released a lot of content for that game, and so I tried Legends of Eidolon really kind of out of loyalty to him because I liked his other game and I wanted to see what he could do. And it's pretty good. It's definitely worth a look if you're interested in such things. One of the things that's great about it is meant to be like it's called Legends of Eidolon for a reason. You're meant to be able to make progress passively. And that doesn't mean that there's not a ton of active stuff to do. There is. In fact, sometimes too much. Like there's a ton of quests. There's a lot of, that you can do, um, while playing. But you get a lot of credit just like having your characters do something when you're not logged in, and it's actually built like a lot of those games, a lot of those idle games are kind of phone battery suckers because you're like, well, yeah, I could idle, but I'll get more if I just leave it on my phone and let my phone run overnight. But that's actually not the case in this game. In fact, in this game it kind of punishes you for that. Like if you're playing actively, you can actually make some decent gains, but you actually get bonuses for being AFK. You get like AFK bonuses. So it actually benefits you more to turn it off and let your characters run passively than to like leave it on actively if you're not actively paying attention to it. So it's kind of a fun game where you can be making progress, and like some days I play it a lot and I really try to like do a lot of quests and do a lot of the active stuff, and then other days like I don't play it for days, 2 or 3 days at a time. I just check in and kind of collect resources and stuff like that. So it's pretty fun. Like I said, the developer's really cool. The Discord is super active. He does a lot of updates. He does a lot of polls. He does a lot of like free giveaways for currency and stuff. Um, and so we're getting ready for the World 3 release, which is tentatively in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which is going to have a lot of new content and is going to kind of help people catch up who maybe haven't been playing. It's going to kind of streamline some of the World 1 and 2 stuff and make it a little bit faster so people can get caught up. So it's a good time to get your feet wet. Z's been playing it on Steam, and he said he really has enjoyed it so far. It's got a cool guild feature where you can work towards a common good. So I don't have my own guild. I created my own guild, but nobody joined it. And
You should start one and we'll invite Sheeny.
I don't want to. I don't want that kind of rage directed at me.
Yeah, it looks like it's available on Steam, the web, and the Google Play Store, but not Apple yet.
Not Apple yet.
Bizarre.
Bizarre.
It's not as bizarre. I think Android gets a lot of stuff.
Apple's very restrictive, I believe, in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's cool about it is like the guild system. Also, it's kind of one of those like working towards a common good where you get bonuses, you kind of can contribute. And I'm in a pretty solid guild. Like they're not super hardcore or anything, but they've been very friendly and there's still some space. So yeah. If you guys are interested in that, whether you're a co-host on the show or a viewer, hit me up with the information that I'll be giving you shortly. All right, Van.
I'm good.
You're good. You got nothing else?
No.
We're
good. Yeah.
Shy?
I'm done.
You're done? All right. The last thing I wanted to talk about then was is not game related, but my wife and I have been rewatching the entire Marvel MCU Legacy set of movies, which is like 30 freaking items long now, because we were watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, which was really good, but had a lot of tiebacks to like Avengers Civil War and Avengers Captain America Winter Soldier. Obviously, I mean the Winter Soldier's in it, so you would expect that.
Spoiler.
But it turns out Sarah didn't really remember those movies that well, and there was parts that I didn't remember either. Like one of the characters talking about something that happened, and we looked at each other like, did that happen in a movie, or was that something that we were supposed to catch off screen? Like we didn't really even know. And so she wanted to kind of watch back through for a second time. We did our first run through pre-Infinity War so that we could see Infinity War in theaters, which was absolutely worth it. And so now we're kind of coming back a second time and going through, and she's really enjoying them a lot. I think she's really feels like she gets it a lot more. She's making a lot of the connections between the films. And so it's been really fun. Like we binged the shit out of these movies like last week in preparation for the final Falcon Winter Soldier episode. And so we watched like 4 movies in 5 days. It was out of control.
Nice.
So, but yeah, that's been fun. I've really been enjoying it. If you haven't caught up on the MCU movies, I definitely recommend it. They are enjoyable, and like the thing we talk about is like watching through all of them. Like they're just all so good. Like even the ones that we rank the lowest are still like they're like still pretty good. Like they're just not as good as the other ones because the other ones are so damn good. So it's a deep hole to get into. It's a lot of moving watching, but if you have a Disney Plus subscription, you basically have access to every single one of them except for the Incredible Hulk, which is not really even necessary, for like $7 a month. So definitely, and like the cool thing, even Disney Plus, like it lines them up chronologically for you if you want. If like you want to watch from oldest to newest, like it just puts them in line and you can just go down the list. So um, definitely something I've been enjoying. I'm glad that my wife wanted to do that. It was actually kind of her idea. So that was a nice surprise for me that I've really enjoyed. So thank you, Sarah, if you're listening. And that's all for me. Anything on that or anything on anything else that we want to touch on?
All good here, sir.
All right. Well, if you have an opinion on any of the games we've talked about, any of the games that we didn't talk about that you feel like we should have, or the Marvel MCU, if you want Shy and I to do an out of focus pod on the MCU because we're both caught up for the most part and Van is not, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching us, we're streaming this live on Twitch, and it can be found on our Twitch channel, I believe, for a couple days on twitch.tv/Focus Target Podcast. And then, of course, we'll also upload this to our YouTube page, Focus Target Podcast on YouTube. We have all of our other previous episodes. I mean, we're on episode 86, so our previous 85, I believe, are all there. And we've got some streaming stuff. It sounds like Shy might be doing some War of the Vision streaming. So check out our YouTube page. Anything that we stream, we always try to put over on the YouTube page for you to watch afterwards as well if you miss it live. If you'd like to just contact us directly, we have a Twitter handle at Focus Target, and of course our Gmail account, FocusTargetPodcast@gmail.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us if you have feedback, suggestions, or ideas. So that is episode 86. It's been a blast. Thanks for being here today. I'm your host, Smiley.
This is Shy.
And I'm Van. As always, cover us, Porkins. We're out.